Welcome, councillors, senior staff, members of the gallery, the press, the clergy. All welcome to our July meeting of Temora Shire Council, and I declare the meeting open. This meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. All present today are reminded that whilst speaking, that we are agreeing that our views and comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when we are speaking, that we are, of course, to be respectful of others and use the appropriate language as we do here at Temora Shire. And Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting, which of course doesn't happen either. So, with those opening remarks, I now am very pleased to call on Auxiliary Lieutenant Caleb Smith from the Temora Salvation Army Corps to lead us in our opening prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here this afternoon, wearing our face masks and smelling faintly of hand sanitizer, we ask for a very special blessing over this Shire and this country of ours. We pray especially for our frontline medical people. We pray for our leaders who find themselves having to make one decision after another that they really wish they didn't have to make. We pray too for our young people who are meant to be going out and making their way in the world, but nonetheless find the world to be a very tricky and strange and complicated and dangerous kind of a place. But in the midst of all that, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this Shire. We thank you for a year without drought, and we thank you for the privilege of, well, sharing a town with all these truly excellent people. We thank you for all these things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very, very much, and it's always a pleasure to see you here in the chamber.
Thanks. Well, I've got to go teach 12 kids to play trumpet now, so
yes, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Councillors, we have a full deck of the councillors here, which is great. We do have apologies received from our Director of Administration and Finance and also the Director of Environmental Services. Is someone prepared to move that we approve those apologies? Thank you, Councillor Winky. Councillor Oliver, move and second. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. That motion carried. Thank you very much. Any declaration of any interest this time, please? If not, let us proceed. We do not have any public presentations. Let's now go to confirmation of the June meeting of Temora Shire Council. Is someone prepared to move those minutes be approved as true and correct record? Councillor Slade, Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion carried. Thank you very much. In terms of matters arising, it's great to welcome back to the chamber the General Manager after some well-earned long service leave. It seems like 12 months that we haven't seen you, but it's great to have you back here in the chamber. Mr. General Manager, any matters arising?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to be back.
Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to a mayoral minute. The number one, I wish to place on record Temora Shire Council's congratulations to former Mayor and long-serving Councillor Nigel Judd OAM on recently receiving a significant award. Councillor Judd was recently presented with the highest honour Rugby Club of Temora can bestow on a member, that being Paul Harris Fellowship. Councillor Judd has been a Rotarian for some 15 years, and I recall being a sponsor of Councillor Judd's when I too was a Rotarian. Councillor Judd has served as President on 2 occasions and Director for several terms. Councillor Judd is a worthy recipient of this prestigious honour, and we applaud his efforts. And I will say, Councillor Judd, that the Deputy Mayor who represented Council and our community at this event. Couldn't wait to bring and tell me the next day of the honour thus conferred. So thank you to the Deputy Mayor for attending, and again, Councillor Judd, it's an outstanding accolade for services rendered.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, for passing on these.
Just remember the microphones, councillors and so on.
Yes, it was indeed a great honour to be a bit of a shock that night, but anyway, certainly, I've been, like most things I get involved in, if I go in something, I'll do it 100%, so it's great being great being on council. So, anyway, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. Number 2 is council are aware we have our council election scheduled for Saturday the 4th of September. And it's very pleasing to see several new candidates coming forward and announcing their intention to stand again as a councillor for Temora Shire, and also those standing for the first time. I also note those current councillors who have indicated they were nominating, and also those that have resolved not to seek re-election. I wish to at this time acknowledge Councillor Dennis Clay and Councillor Lindsay Reinhold, who have chosen not to stand again. Both Councillor Slay, who was serving 2 terms, and Councillor Reinhold, who was in her first term, have immersed themselves in council and our community in a genuine and dedicated manner. We've all learned a great deal off them both, and I know that they will continue serving our Shire community in various other ways. I wish all other candidates, whoever the final nominees are, the very best. This is a significant step to put one's name forward to be elected as a councillor. It's very hard work, but it's also extremely satisfying that you're part of a dedicated council team who sincerely wants to see Temora Shire be the best that we can possibly be. I'm confident our Shire community will elect the best known councillors that they would like to see lead them for the next 3-year term. Council will formally go into caretaker mode from the 6th of August until Council's first meeting of the newly elected Temora Shire Council. As the current Mayor, I will remain in the role in an active capacity until the new Council holds its first meeting to elect their Mayor and their Deputy Mayor. Number 3, Council is reminded of the workshops we have on Monday, 19th of July. At 9:30 we have the New South Wales Office of Local Government's General Manager Senior Staff Remuneration Review. At 11 a.m. we will consider our response to the model policy of councillor staff interaction. At midday is the model social media policy workshop, and at 1:30 we will have our local road and community infrastructure federal grant allocation workshop. Please note that luncheon will be provided. Number 4, Council will note that the Federal Member for Riverina, the Honourable Michael McCormack MP, is now not the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia after a recent ballot. I wish to formally place on record here at Temora Shire Council that Council, together with our community, we express sincere thanks to Mr McCormack for his 3 years as our nation's second in charge. We also acknowledge Mr McCormack's outstanding contributions as a minister, holding several portfolio areas. Temora Shire, together with the entire Riverina region, have benefited enormously from Mr McCormack's time in Cabinet. We salute him and thank him for all he has done for us to date. We look forward to Mr McCormack continuing to serve as our highly esteemed federal member for Riverina. We also acknowledge the election of the new Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Barnaby Joyce MP. We wish him all the best during his time in office. And there's a recommendation, councillors, that Council does write to both the retiring Deputy Prime Minister and the newly elected Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister. And finally, I wish to formally place on record Council's warm congratulations to our Director of Administration and Finance, Mrs Elizabeth Smith. Mrs Smith recently stepped up into the role of Acting General Manager whilst our General Manager, Mr Lavelle, was on some well-earned long service leave. Mrs Smith carried out the role with distinction and council sincerely appreciated her outstanding efforts. We also warmly welcome back our General Manager, who I understand thoroughly enjoyed his time away. And councillors, there is a recommendation there that the recommendation is presented be adopted and the remainder report is noted, so I will move the mayoral minute. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
No. The motion carried. Thank you very much. So, councillors, let's now go to our business paper. And just before we do, also acknowledge the town planner, who is the acting Director of Environmental Services this evening, and is also assisting the Executive Assistant in relation to minutes, motions, etc. So thank you for making the effort to be here. Page 9, Councillors of the White Papers, the Youth Advisory Committee, and Councillor Slade is the Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The minutes, as usual, are very well filled with really worthwhile stuff that's going on as far as our young people are concerned. And I must say that the activities that we have heard about over the last X number of years since the Youth Committee was first formed have really been a great preparation for the young people who are moving from students into young adults and who are fulfilling such a role. I'm not going to read over it. I think all of you are literate, but I would suggest that the report be received.
Thanks, Councillor Slade. Moving the report to receive. Second, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Slade, have any further remarks?
No, as I say, I think everything there is very self-evident, and but if you haven't had an opportunity to read all of the details, it's certainly worth your while having a look at them. It fills me with a great deal of delight to know that our young people are being so well served by our youth officer and by the supporting staff.
Thanks, Councillor Slade. I echo very warmly your remarks, and particularly it's lovely to see the Youth Made Markets report again, just a further reminder of what a successful event that certainly was, and God willing it will happen again. Thank you. Anything, Councillor Winky?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's fantastic to see the variety of programs that are being held with youth up there, and I think that's excellent in its own right. And my congratulations to those that have working with the youth up there. It's fantastic to see, and great to be able to for us to continue to support it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Winky. Here. Anything further, Council, in relation to the Youth Advisory Committee report? If not, is someone prepared to move the report and its recommendations, please? Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Slade. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
No. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Now let's go to page 23, the Assets and Operations Committee report, and Councillor Winky is the chairman.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Look, the minutes are there in the paper, and just move the recommendations that are on reports to receive.
Thank you. So, Councillor Winky's moving the report is received. Second of the Deputy Mayor. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
No. The motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Anything you wish to highlight from the report?
No, I don't think so, Mr. Mayor, at this stage.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any comments, questions in relation to, just keeping in mind, councillors, the report on page 34, page subdivision, Butterway Road, of course, that will be probably dealt with, of course, in that later report under the Director of Environmental Services. In great detail. There's nothing further. Is someone prepared to move the recommendations and the report contained in the Assets and Operations Committee report. Thank you, Councillor Winkie. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much indeed. Now, councillors, you received the Mayor's report for the month of June. Yes. Thank you. But before we go into that exciting report, we shall now go to we shall now go to delegates' reports. Are there any delegates' reports, please? Councillor Smith.
Yes. Yes, I went to the Royal Museum the other day and really pleased with the amount of people coming through. You know, with the COVID, it's slowed it down a bit, but you're still reasonably happy with the people coming through. It looked like you're going to put a container there to the storage. And other than that, they're all happy out there. Tamora Zone, I went to the AGM with them. Liz Smith was there. And their shop's going pretty well too. I think they're all pretty proud to be part of that shop. Everything went well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith, and thank you for the updates. Further delegates' reports, councillors. We go to the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As you've already heard, Lauren and I attended the Rotary changeover dinner representing council, along with Councillor Gov receiving the Poorhouse fellow award, and also Bob Oliver, who's the next door neighbour, and he's another bloke that puts everything into whatever he does 100%. The other thing that come out of that is also a bit of unique is that the retiring president of this Margaret Fitch handed over the gavel to her husband, Brendan, which is apparently never happened before. So it's very interesting. So keeping in the family. And that's about it. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Further delegates' reports. Thank you, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Probably not so much a delegates' report, but just an update on where things are up to at the railway station. The contractor has, I believe, today finished the new roof on the main station building and also the toilet blocks, and replaced some of the rotting timbers that were there. It's now probably totally waterproof. And I must say the roofing contractor, or the subcontractor, done a really good job. It looks really good.
Who was that, Councillor Oliver?
Judd Morris Roofing. Not sure where he's from, but Mick Reardon, younger. Yeah. Mick Reardon got him, lined him up. So yeah, no, it's good to see it done, and perhaps now I might be able to get a full night's sleep in. Yeah. And also John Holland have been, I must mention them as well, being the owners of the building, and they've contributed a substantial amount towards it as well. So yeah. Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Oliver. It's terrific to hear that. It really is, because they seem to be kicking goals up there, Councillor Oliver, you and the team. Thank you. Councillors, further delegates' reports. Just to advise that there's, of course, the next REROC board meeting, well, at this stage, is scheduled to be at the Parliament House in Canberra, as we'd like to go state and federal sort of year about and have our board meetings there. The Riverina JR board, of course, that the Deputy Mayor and I sit on, is supposed to meet there as well. But of course, with current COVID the times that we're currently dealing with, that can change daily, we're not sure where we're at. So the Country Mayors Association will not be meeting in Sydney as scheduled as early first Friday in August for obvious reasons, and so that's the situation there. And the Deputy Mayor and I also went to the National Press Club to hear our Australian Local Government Association President, Councillor Linda Scott, speak, and we're most impressed with her, particularly how she handled hecklers from the audience. It was a class act, it really was, and also some challenging journalists that were there, obviously, to give her a bit of a hard time. She handled it with grace and with class, to be frank. And lastly, just to advise, the annual meeting of the Sports Council will be held next Wednesday. I think there's a lot of Section 355 committees that will be having their AGMs in the coming weeks ahead. So that's all I have. Nothing further, delegates? If not, let's move on now to the Mayor's report for the month of June. And it is there as a recommendation.
In the late report.
It's in the late reports, councillors. And there's a recommendation there that the mayoral report for June be noted. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's now have a motion, please, receiving staff reports. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillor Judd. Councillor Judd moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you. We go to page 42. General Manager's report, 10.1, calendar of events.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see, the councillors, we're starting to develop a few more events after the COVID issues, but of course, a lot of these now have been put on the back burner again, but the ones that are there will stay, so it's the council's information.
Thank you very much. Councillors, there is a recommendation for you to consider that we note the report. Councillor Smith. Councillor Winky moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 43, 10.2, the Steels, General Manager.
As written, Mr. Mayor, there's a number of agreements there that require council senior.
Thank you very much. There's quite a few. Quite a few there. This is the Deputy Mayor.
What's the one about the Department of Education?
Department of Education, General Manager. It's just back for a holiday.
It would be a clinical service that we provide for the Department of Education.
Thank you. Councillors, there is a recommendation there for you to consider that Council seal will be affixed to the above documents. Councillor Smith, the Deputy Mayor, moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Over to page 44, 10.3, Council meeting dates. The General Manager.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Council, I put this report up for a number of reasons. As we're aware, the local government elections are scheduled for the 4th of September. Prior to the local government election, of course, we enter into a caretaker period from the 6th of August until election day. The caretaker period is a time when a number of issues can occur. We can't accept tenders over $150,000. You can't appoint or dismiss a general manager during that time, so next time. So there's a few things that can't be done, but it's just for council's information. Some councils have taken the view that they won't hold a meeting on that in August, but that's not been our process. We've always held an August meeting. Normal business, normal operational stuff can still go on. It's only a very limited amount of sort of policy development type work, and contentious developments can't be considered during that period as well. So I want to know firstly whether councils are happy to have that August meeting, which I imagine you would be. The other thing which is a little bit more difficult is the meeting date for September. At the moment...
Sorry, Mr. General Manager, maybe we address that issue first.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Thank you. So, councillors, obviously, previous practice has been, or certainly in my time, I'm sure other experienced councillors, we have had a meeting in August, but what is your wish in that space? Councillor Judd?
Yeah, I agree that it's been normal practice in the past, and I'd like to see probably committees and normal meeting in August.
Would you move that way?
I'll move that way, thank you.
Thank you. Second for the motion, please. Councillor Winky, move and second. Further discussion? Not. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next one will require a change by council, and that is our normal meeting time is the third Thursday of each month. As you're aware, as mentioned earlier, the 4th of September is the election. The Electoral Commission have advised that it will be to allow 3 weeks after the election before the poll is declared. That may happen in a week, it may happen in 2 weeks, or it could take the full 3 weeks, but they've asked us to allow 3 weeks, which puts us back to the 24th of September after the normal date. So we need to look at when the September meeting will be held. I've suggested the 30th. I'm aware that that is not suitable for a number of reasons. So there's nothing to say that we can't. Our normal thing is on the third Thursday. It doesn't have to be a Thursday as long as it's properly advertised. It can be any day. So that's for the consideration of council. Also noting councils for the 21st and 22nd will be a training induction day for existing councillors and new councillors. The existing councillors is 1 day, new councillors is a 2-day thing, but will be required. So again, up to the discussion of council as to what date is suitable for that September meeting, which we do need to advertise.
Thank you.
I should mention, Mr. Mayor, that the only other date that's important is from the declaration date, you have 3 weeks to hold the meeting and hold the election for mayor.
Thank
and other
you.
positions.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor, just in relation to the 3rd of September, I know, pardon me, Councillor Judd has an issue. I believe that this council have an issue as well. There is scheduled a tribute dinner to the member for Cootamundra for the electorate to thank her for her efforts over her 4-year term, which she's been the member for Cootamundra. That is on Cootamundra on that night, and I hold a very firm view, as other councils will be represented, the hometown of where the member was born and bred and schooled should be there. So I certainly wouldn't favour the 30th of September either. But I see the Deputy Mayor flashing.
Chair. I was going to put forward the 27th or 28th of September.
So the 27th.
Monday.
Yes, the
Yeah,
27th
or
or
28th.
the 28th. So, pardon me, what does council think of that? Councillor Oliver?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just think we've just got to pick a date and go with it, I think, because with possibility there's other new councillors that may or may not suit them as well, so it's just got to be a date, and if you can turn up, you can. If you can't, well, you're going to be an apology, I suppose, so that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Look, it is a nightmare with meeting dates, as we all know. Councillor Winky?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I go along with Tuesday the 28th. I think that's sort of close to the 30th, and that's still before it, so it's within the time frame, and might be a better night to suit them. Rather Monday night is regular Monday night. Councillor, with that?
No, I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Councillor Winky. So there was a suggestion of Tuesday, well, the Deputy Mayor suggested Monday the 27th or Tuesday the 28th. Councillor Winky suggesting Tuesday the 28th. Any issues with that date? Okay, Councillor Winky, would you like to move to that end?
Yeah, I will, thank you, Mr Mayor, but we have a meeting on our first meeting after the election on Tuesday, the 28th of September.
4 o'clock. Yeah, thank you. Second, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moving to second. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. I declare that motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Right, thank you. The General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The third item is at this stage regulation, and that is that we must advise local government New South Wales of our voting delegate by the 2nd of November. Which will be after that meeting, so that's not a problem. The voting delegate is generally by default the Mayor. The only, this is the next one, if a councillor is considered running for the LDNSW executive, nominations also close on the 2nd of November. This information.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. We've dealt with those matters in that report. Thank you. Yes, councillors, we have some late items that have been deemed urgent. The first one is Local Government New South Wales 2021 Annual Conference motions. General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is councillors following on from the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference. Motions are required to be submitted by Monday the 27th, which is the date before our meeting. So if councillors, again this is just for information, but if councillors do have a motion they wish to have submitted to the annual conference, if we could have it by the next meeting for council to consider at the August meeting in the appropriate format, and we will then forward it on.
Thank you. Councillor Sadia, just to reiterate that if there's anything that you feel, submit that, and then council can consider whether that is adopted as a motion that should be sent to the conference. So, motion to note the report, please. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Judd, moved and seconded. Further discussion? No further discussion. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you. We also have a further urgent late report, and that is entitled Rural Fire Service Assets. General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, at last week's Audit and Risk Improvement Committee, there was a report lent to the committee, and you can see the resolution of that committee there to endorse the comments contained in correspondence to the Chief Executive of Local Government New South Wales in relation to New South Wales Auditor General's report regarding the New South Wales rural firefighting assets, to endorse the accounting position paper in relation to the accounting treatment of New South Wales rural fire service plant and equipment, ahead of the finalisation of the 2021 financial statements, stating Council's position that it does not control New South Wales Rural Fire Service plant and equipment, and therefore does not recognise the financial statements. And the third one, which is really what we're talking about here today, is the request of the Chamorro Shire Council to communicate our position to the New South Wales Auditor General, the Office of Local Government, the Premier, the Deputy Premier, the Minister for Police and Emergency Services, and Member for Cootamundra, seeking a resolution at the state government level to the question of New South Wales Rural Fire Service assets, ownership and control. Now, there is a report attached, and there are a couple of other confidential documents from other councils. We couldn't put the public arena that's been set up separate cover. But basically, we're in a situation where, for us to take Rural Fire Service assets into our books will put us in a fairly parlous paper financial position. When you consider that they aren't controlled by council, it's very clear that they're not controlled by council. But the state government obviously don't want them on their books either. For the same reasons, probably. So there's a concerted campaign by local government. I think there's 68 councils who don't take them into account in the financial statements for the reasons outlined. And at this stage, as I said, in the recommendation, recommend we endorse the resolution of the Audit and Risk Improvement Committee and make those recommendations as required.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I also think Council may like to consider, as part of that, sending copies to, obviously, LG and SW, the New South Wales Country Mayors, delivering a joint organisation as part of that suite of those that we write to. But this is an issue that I know that gets every council's gander up, and frankly, we can understand why. I just recall, and I think many of you on this channel will recall, that, if we're supposed to be the owners of these plant equipment, these assets, and then during a recent fire out at the Chamorro waste facility, and that we couldn't even have access to what is legally deemed Chamorro Shire Council property, and that did it, as far as I was concerned, reaffirmed why we should not be doing what we're doing. But councillors, I know we've got some RFS back in the chamber, and I'm sure you'd like to have your say. Councillor Winton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's really time we sort of get to the bottom of this and get it solved. I think it's one way or another, but it's just, as you said, it's really, without actually saying it, but it is a cost-shifting measure as far as the state government's concerned, not the local government again. And we need to, draw a line there and say we just don't want it on our books, full stop period. And I think we need to take a stand like the other councils have, which we have, and not put it on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Winky is the former group captain of the RFS. Thank you very much. Other comments? The Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I agree. This is ridiculous. It's been going round and round in circles for quite a few years, and it's time to put to it. He said that the council has absolutely no control over those equipment, and there's no reason whatsoever that council should be recording on our books. Totally agree with the recommendation.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Now go to Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the audit committee meeting the other day, and this is a very serious issue that affects our council and many other councils. And I go back to 70s, 80s, 90s in the previous council. There's probably no doubt that council had control of the assets back in those days, but certainly since the year 2000, if not before, certainly once the revamped Rural Fire Service started, taken right out of our hands, and I think certainly we have no control at the moment, and we certainly shouldn't be responsible for accounting for them in our books. So, and I'd like to see just an addendum to the motion that in previous reports said about motions for annual conference. I'm saying that we don't get satisfactory resolution from our political representations, that we go to the Shires conference, annual Shires conference with the matter as well.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. Further comments, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree with all of those sentiments. I'm particularly concerned that each year we have no idea of what depreciation data will be passed on to council that we have to account for in our budget and affects our budget surplus. So it doesn't seem to me that the fire service have any limits control their expenditure in a way that we can have some certainty for our budgeting purposes.
Thank you very much, Councillor McLaren. We now go to Councillor Smith.
Yes, the rural fire service certainly has changed over the last 50 or 60 years, and I think they have built an empire of their own, personal opinion. And I just think they just keep building and building this empire. And I know it's a great service. I've been in the rural fire service since 65, and I just think, but this putting the cost, shifting the cost is just not on. Now, once everybody, I think the brigade's put in 11% or something like that, 11 point something percent, then it went up a little bit. But now the brigades don't have to put anything in, but we pay for it in other ways. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Smith. And councillors, I think, this has been a long-standing issue, and there needs to be formal action taken. Thank you. The General Manager.
I just wanted to take up on a matter that Councillor Judd raised, and that was in relation to LDNSW. They're one of the lead partners in this action, and they're actually working quite closely with them to make this representation. In fact, there's now an action by the other councils. We're all contributing a small amount of money to have a legal opinion. All we have at the moment is the views of the State Audit Office, which was very carefully worded. It doesn't say that there's no control. It says the view of the state is that there's no control. So we're now asked for an independent legal opinion on it so that we can take that to the government.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I do know that our state member, Peter Mundry, is as frustrated as we are in relation to this, because everyone in her electorate, and of course beyond, is singing off the same hymn sheet as what we are. But at least by what's before you, and I also think, in addition to those other organisations, there is a formal and proper concentrated campaign. So, we're in your hands. There's a recommendation there for you to consider. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd move the recommendation with the added extra organisations that you wanted to put in as well.
Thank you. So obviously LGNSW, the New South Wales Country Mayors Association, the Liberated Joint Organisation. Thank you. Councillor Winky. Second for the motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Hope there's no further late reports, Mr. General Manager.
Nothing further.
Thank you very much. Let's now go to page 46, the Engineering Services Department report, and they have Bill to report.
I like how you change the tone of your voice.
We're obviously all on top of things, Mr. Engineer. thank you very much. Let's go to page 47, the Environmental Services Department report. 12.1, the terms of usage for Temora Memorial Town Hall. The acting director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the report of the outcome of the public exhibition of this new policy.
Thank you, and note that there were 0 submissions received. Councillors, there is a recommendation for council to consider on the bottom of page 47, or unless there's alternative. Councillor Smith.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Your moving recommendation, Councillor Smith, second of the motion. Thank you, the Deputy Mayor. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, we now go to the very important report, which was a late report, but obviously because of the detail involved in this report, and the report is the proposed residential subdivision of Bundawara Road, and that is in the hands of the acting director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report provides a planning assessment of the proposed residential subdivision. It's an 85 lot subdivision in 2 stage development, with stage 1 being 53 lots and stage 2 being 32 lots. So the planning report gives detailed assessment of the proposed subdivision and covers a range of matters that were raised by submissions in relation to traffic safety and provision of landscaping, as well as access to open space. I'm happy to answer any questions that councillors may have.
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Director. Councillors, this exciting proposal that's before you is obviously written in vast detail from obviously the director, the town planner, that department, and we're very grateful for that.
Also, the manager of engineering services.
The manager of engineering services involved as well. We salute all of you involved with what's before us, and I know that the developers have certainly warmly praised those staff members involved thus far. However, it's up to council to determine what they wish to do in that space, and it's over to the council. The Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think the issues that council has been resolved. I think we're comfortable with the whole DA now, and I'm prepared to move the recommendation. Yeah.
Thank you. So, the Deputy Mayor is moving the recommendation, which is on page 33, 33, beg your pardon, that list of the late report, that says that Council approve development application 37-2021, Bundawara Road, Temora, subject to the conditions outlined. Councillor Winky.
Pleasure in seconding that motion. Thank you.
You're seconding the motion. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? The Deputy Mayor. No, I shall now go to Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is probably to our engineering manager, and to do with footpaths on page 31. There's 2 listed there to be in the development. Does the manager think we'll ever get requests from the other streets that are footpaths, or do they just expect that the residents will walk down the street or on the natural footpath or something?
Thank you, Councillor Judd, the Manager of Engineering Services.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I actually wanted to discuss point 8 in Anderson Street as it was. Generally, in developments, if you look in Wagga, all the larger centres, councils only generally require footpaths to be on, what are considered to be collector streets and, higher end streets once the capture's a bit bigger. And the simple reason for that is that, it's expected that the low volume pedestrians use the natural road reserve or road, and secondly that once these assets are built, they become councils to own and operate. And I guess if we start to construct footpaths in these minor streets, there's probably an expectation that we should be rolling that out throughout town. Our approach at the moment, once upon a time council had a policy where they did want to put a footpath down every street in town on one side, and the PAM's has gone away from that, and we're really focused on key pedestrian routes to community facilities and the road hierarchy, so putting footpaths on the collector streets and higher end streets. So I had point 8 as a question mark as to whether council felt that was a street that warranted a footpath, and it's going to collect some foot traffic from Bundawarra Road, from Hawkins and from Corbett Street. It was just up for discussion, but I hope I've answered your question. The short story is that local minor streets, it's unlikely that we'll ever have a footpath on every street in town, and it'll be also focused on collector streets and connections to community facilities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engineer. Thank you. Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think the concerns of council have been really well addressed. I just note topic point 4 talks about a design to be submitted by the developer and approved by council on the traffic sign infrastructure. I just wondered what the time frame for that design would be submitted, and likewise on point 12 it talks about prior a landscaping plan to be considered and approved by council prior to the work commencing. I just wondered what the time frame for that might be as well.
The approximate.
Yeah, approximate.
Yeah.
At what stage is the development?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McLaren. The engineer.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think, particularly point 4, I think we'd be willing to take council's advice on that if there was a preference in mind of the type of sign infrastructure that was to be accommodated. The reason we left it a fraction open-ended and to be approved by council is that there are various options. You've got intersection options and you've got mid-block options. I think if council was to preference one over the other, say the mid-block was preferred over intersections, I'd be more than. I think that we could specify that, as an amendment. But outside of that, I would expect that the road design wouldn't be that far. It'd be something we'd look to do pretty quickly. It's just that we're not at that point right now.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Councillor McLaren.
Further to that, is it appropriate if I move an amendment that the engineering department provide reports to council on options for traffic slowing infrastructure?
So, thank you, Councillor McLaren. I thought that if this motion was passed, that would happen anyway.
Yeah, that'd be correct.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McLaren. The acting director.
Just one more point. Councillors would have seen that the applicant did propose a revision to the names of the street, and as part of that, I'd like to note that we would need to update one of the conditions where it refers specifically to the addresses. But it's a very minor amendment that I'm happy to deal with myself, but just wanted councillors to note that at the time.
Thank you. Thank you. The engineer?
Yeah, just while we're on that subject, just on reviewing this document, the one thing that I can see that is probably missing that I'd like to apply both this subdivision and future subdivisions is I'd just like to add in and then one clause around vertical and horizontal tolerance in relation to the as constructed being as per design, if that makes sense. And I think particularly a lot of these developments where the storm water part is also the road and it's over and flow, it's critical that the levels set for curb and gutter and road are adhered to within a certain tolerance. And currently it's not covered, but we'd certainly be lenient. It wouldn't be overly onerous, but I think it's something that we need to definitely put in any developments moving forward, and therefore I think it should be in this one as well.
Thank you. So does the acting director have any comments in response to the engineer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd be happy to arrange to include a suitable condition with words to the effect of the direction of the manager.
Thank you. So the mover and the seconder are happy? So the mover, the deputy mayor is happy. Councillor Winky. Okay, thank you. Councillors, I'm fully supportive of what's before us, but the one thing that I do agree with strongly with in terms of the author, I just noted that there was a submission in relation to a new park that was, I think you addressed it there, was suggesting about recommending that the upgrade of Bradley Park be prioritised, and that's certainly, I strongly support that position. I think it's got a lot of potential. Anyway, councillors, you have a motion before you, and that is to approve development application 37/2021 for an 85 lot subdivision in 2 stages at Bundawarra Road, Zamora, subject to conditions including that extra one as articulated by the engineer. Further discussion, Councillor McLaren?
I just wanted to check whether having a recording of the additions is enough to include on the proof that they will have in writing.
Councillor McLaren?
We'll discuss that now, if that's okay, and councillors can check they're satisfied with that.
Thank you. So we will add that in. Councillor Smith, did you have your...
No, I'd just say I'm quite happy to move the report be noted and goes ahead.
Yep, we've got enthusiastic mover and seconder already. So we're still discussing the motion.
Vertical and horizontal.
Right, so that effectively captures, has the engineer's net going. So that captures, and the mover and seconder are happy with what is written before you? Yep. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? If Councillor McLaren?
Just to confirm that the plan submitted on the 25th of June is the figure 2 on page 21. It says that according to the development plan submitted on the 25th of June. That's the one.
I'm struggling to hear you, I must admit, Councillor McLaren.
In point 1b, it says the revised subdivision plans prepared by Crafts and Tony dated the 25th of June 2021. I just want to confirm that figure 2 on page 21 is that plan dated the 25th of June.
Okay, thank you.
That's the vote number.
Thank you. So, the acting director.
Yes, I confirm that the plan shown on page 21 was the updated plan, but as councillors are aware, there's a very minor change where it has just updated the names of the streets. So at the top, so Gilfish Street, it actually moves down to the bottom and replaces Postal Street, and then we have a new street called Bloomfield Street, which would be at the top of Portland Street. That was the only change to the plan.
Thank you very much. Councillor, there being no further discussion, I'm now going to put the motion to you. And of course, being a bill application, we need to raise our hands and have those votes formally recorded. So I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please raise your hands. So we carried the motion unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I do acknowledge the presence of the developer in the chamber, Mr. Hartley. Thank you very much for being here and for your interaction, positive interaction with council as a whole. And we could not wish you and your team any more success going forward. I won't speak. Well, it would be unusual, but this is a very unique approval that council have done, so I think council would allow you to speak, Mr. Hartley.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their input and feedback. The staff for their constant help over the last 12 months. Craig Sinclair, who's done a power of work with us as well. So yeah, just thanks everyone for their vote of confidence, I guess it is, and let's get it that.
Thank you very much, and that's exactly what it is, Mr. Hartley. It is a vote of confidence, and we know it will succeed. So thank you very much. You may take your leave, or if you'd like to spend the rest of your evening with us, you may do so. Well, you're most welcome. Councillors, thank you very much for that. Again, to all of our staff, and as Mr. Hartley noted earlier, the work of everybody involved, but also the economic development manager. We acknowledge his efforts as well, and but I particularly thank councillors as well for putting a lot of work and effort into this as well on their part, and we've landed on something that's fairly strict. So thank you very much. Now, nothing of an urgent late nature from the acting director, I assume. Thank you. Let's now go to page 58, the Department of Administration and Finance report. I said to the acting director of environmental services, which is also the acting director of administration and finance, so we have nothing to report there. Thank you very much. And our director will be back, I understand, Mr. General Manager, on Monday. So that's great after a well-earned break. So let's now go, councillors, to page 59, correspondence, 14.1, the Measure Up bus, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first one is the Measure Up bus, which is a bone dense commentary, is that the correct term? The seeking permission to be located near the community centre. It has been in the past, so that is seeking approval at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. There's a step out for a minute or two, so councillors, Councillor Lingy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just move that the recommendation be received and accepted.
And Councillor Winky.
Second.
Second, Councillor Ryan. Any further discussion? If there's not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Move along to item 14.2, the Trade Society. The General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Wagga Trade Society, as you're aware, requested the use of council stage for the Wagga Show this year. Council has made a decision not to allow external hire of the stage and advised them of that, and they've asked the council reconsider that decision.
Thanks, Mr. General Manager. Yes, I find this a little bit of a strange sort of a matter, but yes, much of Council Wiki.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, my concern is that if it gets over to Wagga, it's going to be seen by a lot of people, and also will be flooded with requests for this particular item. And I think it was stated at our last meeting that it's getting to the stage it's not really great, but it possibly could be without spending a lot of money on it. So I'm just wondering whether we should just leave it as it is and deny the request.
Thanks, Councillor Wiki. Very much the same opinion, I think. You're moving that way.
Yeah, I will thank Mr. Chairman. I will move that we deny the request.
Second, Councillor Reinhold. Further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Moving on to 14.3, Southern Sports Academy sponsorship. Back in the room, you can take over.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, email page 63, 14.3, Southern Sports Academy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual request from the Southern Sports Academy for athletes from the Temora Lake and Government area. And they asked for a donation of $200 per athlete. It's been council's practice in the past to provide this. This year, very unusually, there's only one athlete at the academy. Normally there's much more than that, but for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillors, normally we have quite a few, pardon me, of young athletes across the Shire in this program. Obviously this year we have the one young Xavier Maxwell, who's a rugby union enthusiast, but also I remind council that not only does council traditionally support this program, but also through the Sports Council, the Elite Sportsman's Grant, they're $150. So we have anyone reach state and national level, they apply, and the delegates vote then for $150, and then the Sports Council will bill council on an annual basis. So there is that great support for that channel, but also this the Southern Sports Academy, which obviously is very in-depth program that's benefited a great deal of athletes across the Shire over the years. Is there for your consideration, Councillor Smith?
Move that we.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry. Move that we exceed their request of $200 for that one athlete.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Slade.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Slade. Second on the motion. We see the request Southern Sports Academy supports Xavier Maxwell. Is there further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those in that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the Deputy Mayor for sharing while I was indisposed. Now, the General Manager, nothing of an urgent late nature.
I have nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 66. We have received a notice of motion 15.1 pool memberships from Councillor McLaren. I defer to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This stemmed out of a discussion last year at the Access and Equity Committee. We talked about equity in a financial sense for some of our socio-disadvantaged, economic disadvantaged families in town, and it was thought that the committee could, upon application, approve either fully concessional or a percentage concessional for suitable people to have access to the pool, or it might be a family one for children of a family who perhaps can't afford the family membership, or it might be somebody who has a health reason that may need the heated pool. But I think the discretion could be left with the Access and Equity Committee. They have various committee members on the committee who know people's circumstances around town. So, yeah, this was just for council's consideration. I can't imagine it has a cost to council in the sense that I don't think many of the applicants would currently pay a full membership to council. So it's really just to provide an access to those really tough. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLaren. So the way that I would see that work is that the submissions would obviously come to council, then go to that committee to consider them, and then that committee would then recommend to council, I would think, in a closed session, Mr. General Manager.
It would have to be in a closed session, mate.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
I had thought it might work like the Heritage Committee, and the Access and Equity Committee would receive nominations from perhaps doctors or the community centre or whoever in the know, and they would do a suitability and then refer their recommendations to council for endorsement in a closed session. But happy to go with whatever you think perhaps a policy needs to be developed.
Thank you. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, I just sort of wondering whether we've got to not have this process too long, because otherwise, if it happens to be for the pool or something, it could be outdated by the time it goes through our process of meeting going to and running. So I just wonder if we can sort of cut that down a bit somehow, rather to make streamline it a bit. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very time consuming. Just make the Access and Equity only meet once a month as well as council. So this could go over 2 months at least, or 3 possibly.
Thank you, Councillor Winky. Yes, that's a fair point. I would take advice from the General Manager on this. On this one, I see the principle of what's being proposed, but I just wonder, is there got to be more rigour around the General Manager?
Obviously there's got to be some guidelines there, but I don't know, Councillor Clare, would you see us doing a short report back to the next meeting for adoption?
Yeah, that would be great. Whether it's done through Access and Equity or through yourself, I don't mind. But definitely I'd say report and a minimal policy guideline framework. Nothing. I know I spoke to the director last week and he doesn't want an onerous policy, to work through. Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager?
Just a question, when's the next Access and Equity?
So does the acting director know that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee is due to meet again in August.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a suggestion that a report come to council for the August committee day, and then if Access and Equity Committee meet on that day, then that will be fed through the council in August to consider, but then that's policy.
No, that's an operational issue. That won't be a problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so someone like to, everyone else, there is a notice of motion, but we can, Councillor McLaren, if you'd like to move.
Yes, I'd like to, I'd have pleasure in moving my resignation. And do you want to add further that a report be received at the August? Okay.
For consideration. Yeah, thank you. Second for the motion, Councillor Winky.
Yeah, I will second that motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just in my diary, and I think our Access and Equity meeting is on committee day, which is the 10th of August, so I just don't know how that will fit in. Yeah.
So that will be, that committee will meet and then consider the draft of the report, and then that will be fed back to August meeting of council. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so Councillor McLaren and Councillor Winky have moved and seconded the notice of motion, and further that the report will be considered at the August committee day for council to consider their August council meeting. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Council, no further business with notice. We proceed to business without notice. And I shall go around the chamber. The Deputy Mayor.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor. Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We go to Councillor Reinhardt.
And nothing from me either.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhardt. Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to endorse your remarks in the mayoral minute about our federal member, Michael McCormack. We were very lucky probably that, we weren't lucky to have a drought for a number of years, from 17 to 19, and a dramatic effect on our shire. And but with the help of a federal member who was the Deputy Prime Minister also at the time, we're able to finally secure drought funds for this shire, and it's amazing what we've been able to achieve with those, $2 million in drought funds, and we've achieved projects that we've never even dreamt of, I think. So I really think that that's just one of the things that we're very thankful to Mr. McCormack for, and I've got other grants as well, but I particularly thank Michael for his work on the drought funding and getting for this shire. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Councillor Judd. You're quite correct that crucial funding and his crucial support in that space was essential for us to receive the funds that we did. Also, I particularly reflect on the advocacy and lobbying that Council made in relation to two significant grant allocations, and that one for the $5+ million for the future proofing of our airport out here in terms of runway and associated works, and also the Council's very strong support and advocacy to support Frank Whitten Sonic Homes for the over $3 million allocation for the Greenstone Lodge, the new building, which I understand that of course, taking the first sod over 12 months ago, and then of course COVID hit, ready and raring to go, and of course COVID was really been a challenge obviously for Frank Whitten Sonic Homes in terms of funding, and they have, as you know, applied for a further $5 million from the federal government. They have managed, thanks to Mr. McCormack, to carry over that $3 million. So there's a lot of work going on in that space. But those particular grants, and of course coupled with those drought funds, and of course the local roads and community infrastructure funds, it is unreal the dollars that have come our way, and it's appropriate that we give the credit to Mr. McCormack. So thanks, Councillor Judd, for those words.
That's all, thanks.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor McLaren, business without notice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about Howard's Road. First of all, compliments on the upgrade work that the council are doing out on Spears Lane. Great, chucking a lot of great work. It's really going to make that road have more longevity with this lot of the water. And also, the road verges along Howard's Road. I know there's a lot of pine trees right up the edge of the pavement. I wondered, was that in the scope of progress in the next while? Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. I go to the Engineering Services Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So that particular section of Howard Road, so it's the first segment back towards Goldfields Way, definitely on our long-term radar, and it will be a strong case of fixing country roads funding, and that's what we'll be aiming for. We're just trying to prioritise the widening program and a lot of things, but it's getting very close to what's needed on the list.
Thank you. Thumbs up from Councillor McLaren, Mr. Engineer. So Very good, thank you. Nothing further, Councillor Claren? Thank you. Go to Councillor Winky.
Thanks, Mayor. The only thing I want to do is also thank Council through the engineering department to thank the staff for organising the spraying of the suckers on Mill Hill Road, which is happening this week. So excellent.
So very good. Thanks, Councillor Winky. I'm sure the engineer will feed those votes of thanks back to the team. Thank you, Councillor Oliver.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Nothing at all.
No, nothing. Zero.
Thank you. We now go to Councillor Slade.
I think I'm going to give notice of motion, and my motion is going to be to go home in a moment. I'm sorry, I'm starting to really feel crook, but there is one thing I have been asked to mention. People would have noticed in recent weeks the Australia Post initiative of indicating on mail, or encouraging people to indicate on mail, the land on which we survive. And I hope I'm talking to people who are understanding what's happening, so that we would have I'm sorry, what I'm going to ask is, can we be like other councils? Some other councils already have shown that they are going to put signs up around their shire just indicating the land on which they are. So in that case, Wiradjuri. Good, I'm glad that I didn't get that wrong. That would have really messed it up. But if you haven't seen it, what Australia Post is doing is they are having a new space put on their envelopes now, so you don't just put name and address, but you also put the country of. And I heard 2 or 3 nights ago that a number of councils around Australia have already taken that initiative, and they are going to indicate it. I'm sorry, I can't develop the case any further than that. I'm going to have to.
Councillor Stowe can see that you're. So you have you got a ride? Or?
No, I'll.
Right, have we got someone on council?
I'll let you.
What about council staff? Or
Yeah. Oh well.
The engineer.
Here. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you, Councillor Stowe. In relation to that matter, that perhaps. Could we defer that to the signage committee to consider?
Well, that might, yeah.
So Councillor Say will move that we defer the issue of Aboriginal land name signage request to the signage committee to consider. Second, Councillor Reinhardt moved and seconded. Further discussions. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, so you're talking about the signage, and I thought so that'll be included within business of people driving into the town to know that we're in Wiradjuri country as well.
Something along those lines, yeah.
But yeah, I had heard about this business with the post office only just recently, and I thought, yeah, great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Take care.
Thank you.
So is there further discussion? Because obviously councillors, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I understand, Wiradjuri country is quite a big piece of country, and
Goes right up to Dubbo.
yeah, so
It goes down to Blue Mountains.
yeah, so I don't know whether other councils or whatever would participate as well. It'd probably be good if everyone did, I suppose. But
well, yeah, again, that's going to be a matter for each individual council, but also there's going to be a budgetary requirement as well. So that's why I'd be interested personally to see what the signage committee come up with, because if we're talking about a whole raft of signs, then obviously there's a cost involved that council today will have to consider. But I think the principle, everyone in the chamber will agree with the principle, but the facts are that it will come at a cost, and we need to see options and how extensive that is. So thank you, Councillor Smith. Oh, you're right.
Yeah. When you look at the Cootamundra Shire sign, it's got Wiradjuri country underneath. That was just
And look, and that may well be what ultimately is recommended back to council. That could be an inexpensive option if that's done, and that's very appropriate to consider. So, if there's no further discussion on the motion, I'll put it. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Where the heck was I? Now, Councillor Smith, business without notice.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, I just have one just as a reminder for Friday the 23rd of July, 2 p.m, the Councillors and General Managers Round Table that we have annually, which is a great opportunity. I can assure Council that we will not be subjected to a slideshow of the General Manager's recent trip.
Interesting.
Looking forward to that. Oh, well, maybe, yeah. Right, we'll bring Anyway, no, Council, we are grateful to our General Manager for putting himself through, because obviously the General Manager's Performance Review Committee will be meeting, I think the 7th of August for the formal review, and also the General Manager subjects himself to several other informal reviews with that committee, which we think is excellent. And also he likes to come together with councillors just to sit down, close the door and talk about all the goals that have been achieved, the frustrations and the challenges, and we do appreciate that, Mr. General Manager. So that's all that I had. Anything further? This is our notice. If not, motions please receiving the information paper. Councillor Judd, Councillor Reinhold moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, any items out of the information paper that you wish to draw to Council's attention? Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the report on page 88 from the manager of the Honda Centre, Phil Spears. And I just thought it was very impressive that he was invited by the Wiradjuri elder, Uncle James Ingram, to do a presentation impromptu on the great work they're doing out there at the Chilmore Museum on the local Aboriginal heritage keeping place, and got some great, feedback. And I just think that's wonderful, the work he's doing out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. I particularly think it's terrific to see the manager putting that effort, and of course the committee and volunteers put their effort into that keeping place. And the one thing that I particularly was impressed with, when you have the manager that believes in it that much that he contributes towards the establishment of it from his own pocket, and we're talking significant dollars, that's something, I tell you, is very special, and so Mr. Spears is to be commended, and thank you, Councillor McLaren, for highlighting that. Councillors, other items from the information paper that you wish to comment on? Thank you, Councillor McLaren.
Just to note on page 103, the Imagine Committee talking about performing arts on the middle of page 103. Now, 2 concerts coming up: the Red Kite and a variety night at the Town Hall. Higher fees will determine whether or not these concerts go ahead, and it would be quite upsetting if their decision to whether to hold these community events hinged on how much they had to pay council for fees for the venue. I understand our policy, but I'm just saying it's a volunteer concerts, they raise money for charity, and anyway, just thought I'd raise that issue.
Thank you. That is true, Councillor McLaren, but as you also acknowledge that, there is that policy there the council has adopted. But again, it's like any organisation, if they wish to address the council today, they may do so, but at the end of the day, there is a policy that has to be adhered to. But again, the council today always have one thing: they always listen to what our community has to say. Thank you. Councillor Oliver, is your hand up? No. Imagine. Councillor, just we're seeing on page 86 and 87 the Town Hall Theatre. As the General Manager sent out to you that the manager, Mrs. Beth Fern, who I acknowledge is my mother and whom I love dearly, has advised to finally retiring from that role as from the 30 September. And I have to say that, and I will say what I feel, I'm very, very proud of the fact that Mrs. Furman has been the inaugural Town Hall Theatre manager. She's had a tremendous team of volunteers that she's built up over those years. She's put her heart and soul into that organisation, and frankly, if she charged for everything that she did, it would be mind-blowing. She loves that place, will continue to volunteer, and I have to say, I know that she'll miss it terribly, I do know that, but I think it's great that she'll still be there participating as a volunteer. But now it is time, after 12 plus years, that a new manager takes the reins and takes it further forward. It's an outstanding facility for this Shire community and for all those that come from outside. It's a credit to Mrs. Fern, but also the council and to the selfless volunteers that keep that place ticking. And I just simply want to say those words very warmly and very sincerely. So thank you for that. Anything further from the information paper? If not, in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act, advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential. Accordingly, I require a motion to have those matters considered. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Move that way. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Moved and seconded. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Where the motion is carried. Thank you to the members of the gallery and the press. Thank you very much, councillors, senior staff. We resume into open council. I advise the meeting that the following motions have been adopted by council to be brought forward into open council. Those motions are as follows. We'll be moving to confidential as on the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Winky, and that motion was carried. Minutes of the Confidential Assets and Operations Committee on 6th of July 2021. We moved by Councillor Winky, seconded by Councillor Oliver, that the reports be received, and the motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Judd and Councillor Oliver, it was resolved that Council receives a confidential report, the August Assets and Operations Committee, on proposed land acquisition. The motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Winky and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted, and the motion was carried. Tender for Temora Splash Park. On the motion of Councillor Winky and second of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, it was resolved that Council accept the tender from ELM Aquatics for the design and construction of the Temora Recreation Centre Splash Park, and the motion was carried. Temora Recreation Centre project. On the motion of Councillor Winky and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council seek a T-Corp loan to finance Council's contribution to the Temora Recreation Centre project, and that motion was carried. The Temora Agriculture Innovation Centre licence agreement. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Winky, that's not spelled right. It was resolved that Council adopt the Temora Agriculture Innovation Centre licence agreement incorporating the changes as requested by the farming solicitor to commence on August the 1st, 2021, and further that a meeting of the Temora Agriculture Innovation Centre Partnership Committee be convened in August, and that motion is carried. Notice of motion in relation to recreation area, a motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Judd, it was resolved that Temora Shire Council officers expand the scope of the Temora Recreation and Open Space Strategy to consider land in Temora suitable for potential future park recreation areas, and the motion is carried. Notice of motion, potential land acquisition, on the motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Judd. It was resolved that Council seek a meeting with the local member to Cootamundra to discuss the future growth of Temora Shire in relation to future schooling requirements, and that motion was carried. The motion of Councillor Judd and Councillor Winkie, it was resolved that Council endorse the application for funding for upgrade of Mary Gilmore Way under the Road Safety Program, and that motion was carried. The motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council moves the motions from closed business into open council, and that motion was carried. The motion of Councillor Smith and Councillor Oliver, it was resolved that Council moves out of closed council at 6:54 p.m. and into open council, and that motion was carried. And therefore, I now require a motion from Council that we formally adopt those resolutions that have been brought forward from closed session. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Winkie, thank you. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Is there any further urgent business before Council? If not, I do thank you very, very much for your attendance, for your input, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.